you have questions for us.
Yes, I'm going to start with the first question from the group. The question is, I have closed my business about 2 years ago as a spiritual channel author to do the work I'm doing now as a nonprofit executive director. Now it feels like I am being called back with a new book in process and clients returning. Can you advise if I am to leave my current position to move back into my work as a spiritual channel author, excuse me, if I am to leave my current position to move back into my work as a spiritual channel author, or a blend of both for a while?
You know the answer to this. It is a blend for a while. Those who have a voice are being asked to answer the call. You feel it, you know it, and we are grateful for your participation in that. There are those who need the words of guidance that you can provide to them. At this time, you also provide a service for your nonprofit. Consider training your replacement if that feels right to you, or may feel right to you at some time in the near future. If that is your desire, ask for that person to be presented to you. You do have choices always. Consider that which gives you the greatest pleasure or satisfies the call the most. But in short, yes, you are being asked to provide guidance, wisdom, and safe space. There is much call for this at this time. There is much disturbance. Many people do not feel safe. And if you can provide comfort and guidance in a safe space, we ask any of you who can do that to please do that at this time. Does that answer your question?
Hi, this is Robin. I was the one that asked the question, and yes, it does. I feel like in both my spiritual work, as a spiritual channel and an author, plus my work in the nonprofit world, I'm doing that. I'm providing a sense of safety and security and a sense of inner harmony and outer peace.
You have much to offer, and it's important at this time. It's beyond important at this time. It's critical at this time. As much as you can do without overextending yourself, make sure, all of you, make sure that you are giving yourself time for reset in between. If you are shifting gears, make sure that you have time in between. Take a moment. Your weather's getting better. Step outside, breathe, ground, drink some water, do things that give you pleasure so that you are pouring from a full cup. Do you understand what we mean?
Mhm. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
what you provide, for your service. Thank you for your service.
Our next question. I am gratefully requesting to know the future success of my energy business. It has been slow of late, and we are wondering if we need to change direction.
Consider a new direction with it, one that is more in alignment with your gifts and who you are. There is perhaps a better avenue, better channel that will more appropriately fit both what you want to achieve and what you have to offer. Can you give us a little more?
Hi, Lauren. So this is Kathy from Sonare, and we have the energy enhancement system scalar healing business. And it started very with great volume and great interest, and people were very excited with their healings. And it has just tapered off, and we don't know if it's the economy or, where people are at, or because it's winter. So we were thinking about, do we need to add more modalities? I really like our original modality, but people just seem, I don't know if they're afraid of it or if they just can't, it's just too esoteric for them to wrap their head around or what, but things are slowing down. And
Consider
I'm wondering if we need to do something different.
consider explaining it differently. Um, consider how it meets the needs of this time. There are environmental factors, emotional factors, spiritual factors that all impact all of the bodies, the physical body, the spiritual body, auric bodies. And the service that you provide is a wonderful way to address many of those. Consider changing how you speak about it. And what does it address? Particularly, what is the need that people have at this time? Again, there is a lot of a disturbance, and people may not realize what their thoughts do to their bodies. And if nothing else, you can provide an outlet to serve their physical bodies if they can understand nothing further than that. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, yeah.
Adding modalities, they don't necessarily have to be your modalities, but adding modalities, drawing more people to your center for various reasons. Consider having more open houses to bring in people who are just beginning to awaken. Does that make sense?
That is key. Many people are just not awake, and when we try to describe it, they sort of, yeah, I can see they're intimidated by it. And people are also worried, given the economy, they feel a sense of lack. And so they're worried about taking their precious dollars and giving it to something that frightens them a little.
So take the fright out of it, explain it in terms that they can understand. There's a wide range of people who appreciate what you offer, those who know nothing about it and just need to understand what the benefit of it is in physical terms, and people who understand the greater expansion that it provides. Speak to both.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd like to segue from that question that Kathy just asked, because we're actually hosting an event, a channeling event in the EE system room at Sonari Wellness. And I'm hoping that you can provide a comment on how the energy in that room might enhance a live event.
Are you asking me or Lauren?
I'm asking the one.
Okay.
So we will be operating on many levels, as we always do with this. There are many levels many levels of energy that are being broadcast at this time. And in a center like that, in a room like that, the benefits will be exponential. While you are listening to the channel, listening to the words, listening to the voice, receiving the messages on a language level, we will also be working with you and the energies that are provided in that room for a greater heightened sense of healing, both physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, be working on everything at that time. Anytime you combine modalities, the healing effect, the expanding effect is exponential. They multiply each other. They don't add, they multiply. So if you do this or any kind of service like this in along with sound or light, or in this case, the scalar waves, it cannot be counted the amount of healing that happens, the amount of release that happens. So if you have any ability to attend an event there or in anything like that, take the opportunity. It's a greater opportunity for us to work with you in many different ways. That's as simple as we can explain it. Does that make sense?
Yes. So when we do an event like this, or either live or virtually, is the collective also working on the group in an energetic sense beyond the messages that you're sharing? How are you working with us energetically?
So when Lauren sets up her sacred space and invites us in, each one of you makes the agreement or not to receive as much healing as is available to you at the time. So it is simply a wonderful place and time for you to be quiet, to be still, and receive. And we are grateful for the opportunity.
Wonderful. Thank you. The next question. I have a consideration that will involve the sale of my house. Should I put it on the market in 2025 or wait until February of 2026? There's a reason I'm being specific on the timing. I'm not sure if this type of question is appropriate.
We would ask you why you would want to wait, or are you in a rush?
Hi there. No, I'm not in a rush. But there's certain considerations that I have, and I just wondered if you had any feeling about, in general, whether the timing of February of 26 would be better than the year of 2025.
Reading the energy that exists today, we would ask you to consider how you feel about it for sale this year. If an opportunity arises and you go with your gut, then go with your gut. Otherwise, you could wait. Consider who you might want to sell it to. What is the type of person you would like to pass your house on to? And draw them to you and to your house. And when they appear, that is when the time will be right. But with these types of situations, there are many factors that have to line up. Wait for that alignment whenever it appears. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you.
Welcome.
Julie, do you have a part 2 for your question?
No, I don't.
Okay. I would like to ask a question about discernment. So the way things are happening so quickly, either the 24-hour news cycle, the events in our lives on a personal level, we're being bombarded with a lot of information, and some of it's being used to manipulate and some of it's here to help us, but it may be misconstrued as a manipulation because it's just getting mixed in with all the clamor going on. Can you comment for the group as well as for myself on the best way to discern what is true?
We are asking all of you at this time to begin to use discernment. Discernment is different than judgment. Judgment has an aspect of right or wrong based on someone's opinion or programming that you have received. So we're asking you to set aside the judgment that this is right, that is wrong, and go more with how does it make you feel? As a human, you have a wonderful barometer of what you're thinking based on how it makes you feel. If you think that something is wrong, you will feel it in your body and in your heart. Yes, there is a clamor right now. There is a lot of noise right now, and consider it as noise. Ask yourself, when you hear a piece of news, how does it make you feel? And if it makes you feel triggered to jump up and do something or to say something that is harsh, then consider that it might just be manipulation. It might be for the purpose of creating artificial fear. Yes, there are changes that are going on right now, but we ask you to look into your heart and see if they resonate with you. Because if you disagree with something and you shout about it, you are putting energy into the very thing you dislike. It becomes a tug of war, and a lot of energy is poured into the thing that you might prefer to go away. We ask you to withdraw your energy from things that do not serve you or humanity in general. Now, we're not asking you to create a void or to bury your head in the sand, quite the opposite. We're asking you to take your energy and pour it into what you do want to see happen. Take what energy you might have used for activism against something and pour it into activism for something. The benefit of that is that there is more energy put towards moving humanity forward rather than fighting where humanity does not want to go. Think of a schoolyard and two children arguing over a toy. In the meantime, they're not learning anything. They're not in the schoolroom. They're not expanding their consciousness or their awareness or their knowledge. They're just fighting. There's quite a bit of that going on right now. We ask you to pause your reaction, and if it creates a great deal of energy, where can you put it instead? What would make the earth more beautiful? What would make humanity more beautiful, more enjoyable? If everyone pours their individual creativity into that which they have gifts, think of how much further ahead humanity would be. All of you on this call are all old souls. You've done this before. You've seen this before. What would you like to do differently this time? That is why you're here, to do it differently. Not the same, but differently. Use your creativity, your imagination to visualize a more perfect humanity. This is not solely imagination. Consider all things that come into being begin with a thought. They begin with imagination. They begin with inspiration. Open yourself up to inspiration. Open yourself up to guidance and follow it. Take action. Create. Create beautiful things, beautiful environments. Create safe spaces for yourself first and for others. Send out love regularly. Take compassionate action, whatever that looks like for you. If everyone does their part, then everyone benefits. Discernment is how does it make you feel? If it makes you feel bad, if it makes you feel guilty, if If it makes you feel ashamed, what can you do that is the opposite? Who can you embrace? Who can you love? How can you help? Do that instead. Does that make sense?
Yes. To clarify, if beyond a response of aggression or anger, as in discerning if something is true or false, what about if something causes a different emotion, like sadness or hysterical laughter? I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean it feels good. It's just a different reaction. So,
Sadness comes from a judgment that something is wrong or something is lost. In reality, nothing is wrong and nothing is lost. Last time we spoke, we talked about everyone's individual path, their journey, and that we don't know what's on there. We don't know what lessons everyone has signed up for. We don't know yourself what you're supposed to do until you get there. So, is it lost? Is it wrong? Or is it just a lesson? And some of the sadness, allow yourself to grieve, but not for too long. Change is change, and understanding that in order to create something, there must be change. And change often includes having to let something go. If you're talking about people, trust that they are never gone. They are just different. It's just a changed reality, not lost, just different. If it is for something you are used to, you once were used to first grade. You once were used to seventh grade. You once were used to high school. Change is okay. Look at change with curiosity rather than grief or sadness. And consider how you can contribute to fulfill your curiosity. What can you make it? And consider compassion for yourself and everyone else, curiosity, and joy for the rest. Not everyone knows what you do, and there was a time when you didn't know what you know now. Consider what you may know tomorrow and go with curiosity.
thank you.
Does that clarify for you?
Yes, thank you. New question. How would you assess the energy and drive of spiritual seekers at this time?
Strong, large, wonderful. We are very excited to see all those who are willing to open up to new realities, those who are perhaps rejecting old realities because they recognize there is something more and better. It is wonderful to see and wonderful. We ask all of you to build on that seeking energy, that curiosity. What could it be? What could my life be? What could my reality be? What can I create? And go for it. And if there are those who have questions around you, sprinkle seeds. Don't preach, but sprinkle seeds and see if they come back. Once upon a time, for this particular channel, seeds were sprinkled and utterly rejected. And look at where she is now. So do not be too hasty to judge if what you express is not readily accepted. Everyone will get there. It may be on a different bus or a different shuttle later, and that's fine. Allow that to be. Compassion, joy, and curiosity. And we welcome all the awakenings. They are beautiful. There is so much more light now on your news, they say the opposite, but what we see is so much more light on the planet, so much more appreciation for your Mother Earth. She provides all to you and welcomes your love in return. You have spring upon you. Welcome every flower, every bud, every leaf, and welcome your own new beginnings, your own buds, your new leaves, your new growth. Does that make sense?
Hi, that was Robin again. So uh, I was very involved in the spiritual community. I had 3 spiritual retreat centers in the greater Hartford area. And I didn't know if it was just quiet for me in the last 5 years, but it felt like COVID just took the wind out of our sails. And I'm just and me, as I said, it could be just me because I went through COVID and then I had this mission that I had to move on to, that I was asked from the divine to go and do. And so it's been hard for me to, find a community and be part of that. And so I didn't know if it was a personal shift or a shift within the spiritual community. So I'm really talking about community. I'm not talking about individuals. Is there a spiritual community still in this area, or a desire? Is a desire to create one again?
There is. 2020 was a bit of a reset, and you are recovering from that and finding new pathways at this point, new connections. A lot of changes happened since then. A lot of new people are awakening, and they are seeking, they are looking, and those who have more to offer, um, they're looking for you.
Yeah.
It is going to be a little bit different. Some people are awakening much faster than you might have experienced 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. Um, much is being shed. And with that, some of the structure of these communities and retreat groups is shifting as well. Allow yourself new inspiration. Ask for new inspiration on how to create these new structures that are not as structured.
Mhm.
Does that
Thank you.
make sense?
It does. It does. And for Kathy and Mark, that's what I heard, was spiritual community. Is
Yes. People are
your
hungry.
your
They're
space
hungry
would
for
be
connections.
wonderful for that, especially the new building that you just sent out today. The annex would be a wonderful spiritual community center.
There are new connections to be made, new connections. Consider the platform you are on right now. You are not meeting physically, but you are meeting elsewhere and connecting elsewhere. Your higher selves are all very much involved in this meeting, and new connections are being forged. Allow them and go with curiosity and see what's there. Ask what anyone may contribute. People may not even know what they have to contribute because their gifts are just burgeoning, and that's okay. Nurturing, patience, compassion. You will get there. It just may look a little bit different than it has in the past. Allow the shift. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question as a continuation of our conversation in response to the the telepathy tapes podcast. So in addition to children with autism that are existing and meeting in another realm, does that also apply to the sick and elderly who we discern or we interpret as being comatose or not able or just brain dead? Or are they, even though their body is still alive, are they operating and communicating? I'm asking for myself personally as I consider a parent that was in short memory care facility. And as a collective, is that group communicating with each other or still actively participating in this 3D world, even though we are not communicating with them in a linear fashion?
Of course. There are many realms, dimensions that when you are in your 3D, you may not be as aware of. All of these meeting places are available to you all the time. Some of you see them, perceive them while you're awake. Some of you perceive and visit them when you are asleep, or you have visitations from your passed on loved ones. Just the energy is different. And yes, people who are, as you say, might be not available to you in this dimension through illness or accident, they are very active elsewhere. They are meeting with their friends. We are so grateful that those telepathy tapes have been published and it is being picked up and run with by so many people. So many people have made the leap of understanding of what's available out there. Understand that it is available to all of you anytime. Just open your awareness, practice opening your awareness, practice recognizing something that you saw out of the corner of your eye, practice recognizing all of the coincidences and opportunities that you have to open your awareness and understand that, yes, everyone is available all the time, no matter what their body is doing. So we are very grateful to her for having put that out there and for it to be accepted as well as it has been. It opens to you the realm of what is possible.
As an extension of that, if a family member or friend is in a comatose state or is perceived as suffering, is it a compassion to keep them on life support, whether it is in a care facility or by machines?
That is an individual case by case situation. In each case, we would ask everyone to ask themselves, how do they feel about it? Understand every situation allows for lessons for everyone to learn, and everyone signed up for that experience wherever they are in the circle of that experience. There is no blanket answer for this.
Thank you.
But you know that while they are in a coma, per se, they have awareness. There have been plenty of people who have come out of comas who spoke of their experience. So this is common knowledge.
Thank you. Another extension of this question. And there have been many cases, Lauren included, of trauma opening our awareness and our connection to source. Is that a contract that the individual soul makes to experience that in order to get to another stage? Or is that just part of the choices, the free will we're making as incarnate on this planet?
It's both. Of course, it's a contract, but the severity of the experience depends on free will. There will be signs, signals ahead of time, but if they are not received or understood, then with all lessons, it gets larger until it's enough to cause you to pause and ask what's going on and see if there's a different choice that you can make. As the human experience goes, you're very often distracted. You are dealing with the day to day, and you often miss the bigger signals and signs until they become large enough for you to notice. That doesn't make them wrong, it makes them perfect. The experience we're talking about. The experience is perfect if it does what it is meant to do. In the case of Lauren, she had to get hit by an SUV before she could pause and ask why she wasn't in a hospital, even though her body had been thrown 10 feet. That was enough of an experience to cause her very linear mind to stop and ask why and ask what was really going on. Then we were able to begin to get some messages through. And it was enough to open up her curiosity about what else was going on in the bigger picture, or that there even was a bigger picture to be perceived. Now, what she did with that information after that could have gone better, but it was perfect for her. And with that journey, she is now able to help others so that they don't have to struggle the way that she did. But even if someone struggles, it's exactly what they need to do to get what they need out of the experience. Does that answer your question?
Yes. If they can,
Trauma is often the way that humans require in order to make a change. They have to have an experience large enough to knock them out of their current path of thinking, or rut, you might call it. So once you realize that you do have choices, then the lessons can be more gentle direction changes, rather than car accidents, heart attacks, diagnosis, divorce, loss of career, things that are big enough to cause you to pause and reflect or make different choices. All of this is on your path. They are all your choices, all experiences that you signed up for. It's just what you do with the experience that makes all the difference.
thank you.
Yeah.
On that question, if we fail, or I'm sure you're not going to like the word fail, if we continue to make the same mistakes in our life. So I'm sure most of the attendees on this call have lived long enough where they might have experienced patterns in their life, where they have a pattern, they learn from it, they might make it a little bit further, but that pattern might show up again, and then they get a little bit further and that shows up again. Does that continue throughout our lifetimes, or just in the present incarnation? Do we have a reset?
You have experiences you've signed up for in order to learn to evolve your soul as it is expressed on this planet. If you do not get out of the experience what you intended, the experience will repeat. You'll be given more opportunities. They may look different, but the opportunity to learn will be the same. So this may be repeated over lifetimes, or it may be repeated within a lifetime. What exists now is there are a lot of people out there who are available to help you see the patterns and see what can be released, what can be embraced, what can be expanded upon, or a completely different direction to go in. There's lots of help that is available to you now to help you see these things. Does that answer what you were looking for?
Yes.
There are no mistakes, there are no failures. If you didn't get the lesson, you will. You will be given another opportunity. Don't look at it as a failure. It's just you didn't finish your intention. That's okay. You will get another opportunity. It's fine. It's okay. It's perfect. There are other opportunities, other lessons. It's fine. Consider it like your game shows where you pass on something that you're just not getting and you move on to something else so that you can get that one. It's fine.
Thank you. If anyone would like to ask a live question, feel free to use the raise your hand tool in Zoom, and I'd be happy to unmute you.
Hi, this is Kathy again. I just typed a question and as Lynn was saying that. As part of the ascension to 5D, I'm assuming that not everybody will be ready at the same time. For the people that are ready and get to be in the 5D timeline, will there still be karma on that timeline if there are no wars and people look at each other as one? How does that change the way we experience karma? Does it get reset? Does it get wiped out? Do you understand the question?
Yes, karma is unfinished business,
Right.
unresolved energy. Sometimes you don't need to actually resolve it if you get the lesson another way. The whole eye for an eye served a purpose at a time. It doesn't anymore. You've spent many lifetimes going 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and so on. That energy is no longer necessary. Your planet is a different frequency. It is continuing to change its frequency, as are you, as is everyone and everything on the planet. So that system isn't necessary for those who choose not to be in it anymore. If you choose to let go of a lot of things, grievances, grudges, lead with compassion, you don't need that anymore. The people who do not grasp compassion, empathy, and letting things go, getting their lessons without pain, then karma will still exist for them because that is a system that they understand and that they choose while they're embodied. Once they leave their body, they may choose something different, but that is up to them. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I'm having difficulty understanding how the people that accept letting go of things and those that are still going to be in the 3D realm, how is intermingling going to happen?
So consider bandwidths of frequency. There are people who spend their days doing things that you never interact with, and you spend your days doing things that other people never interact with, living their lives that know nothing about what you do. Consider a Buddhist monk has very little contact with the outside world. Doesn't mean the outside world doesn't exist, and it doesn't mean that the Buddhist monk doesn't exist. They can exist at the same time, in the same place, with varying levels of frequency and interaction. Do you have friends that you were very good friends with, say, in high school, that you have no contact with anymore?
Yes.
Doesn't mean they don't exist, doesn't mean that they're not living their lives, doing whatever they're doing, but it's not in your reality unless you go looking for them. So if you don't go looking for someone or an experience that's what you consider karma related in that cycle, that system, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's just not in your reality. This is a concept of these multiple realities going on at the same time that we are very grateful that you are beginning to grasp and ask questions about. We really appreciate it. It is not that easy to explain, but consider you have multiple dimensions that exist in your reality. You're able to perceive some of them, yes?
Yes.
It doesn't invalidate the one you're in, doesn't invalidate the one that's on top of you. Or, we don't have another way of explaining that. So let those who are interested in karma and still understanding that be in that. If you are able to let that baggage go and embrace what else is on offer, allow that. It's okay. And
I'm
it's okay
thinking,
if you can't stay in either one all the time, too. We understand fluctuation. It's fine. It's fine.
I'm just thinking of my children that are so on that spinning wheel of work and go home and, keep repeating. I want to get them to wake up because I don't want us to be split apart.
So, when they were toddlers, did you wrap them in bubble wrap?
If I could have, I might have. No, I didn't.
This is no different. You all have loved ones or people you care about who are not progressing as you would like. Understand that's a judgment and negates understanding of their journey and your journey. Rather consider living by example and drawing them to you because what you do is attractive to them, rather than trying to pull them or push them. As you all know, when someone is trying to pull you or push you, the first thing you do is resist.
Resist, yeah.
So it's okay. They'll get there when they get there. This is the time that they are experiencing this type of lifestyle, just as you did at one point. And when that has run its course, you'll begin looking elsewhere. They will too. It's okay. Let them awaken on their time, when it's their time, when they're ready. All of this is predicated on when you're ready. Think about your own journey. Granted, it may have seemed like things came to you sooner than you were ready or when you weren't ready, but you were. You were. Allow, be compassionate, be curious, set a good example. All of the things that you've always been told, embody them. You are all leaders in your own way. This is the time to shine. This is a time to be a beacon or a lighthouse. The lighthouse doesn't go and get people. It just shines a light in dark spaces. That's okay. You can do that. Do you understand?
Yes.
We are very grateful for the question.
I have a segue for that question, as it seems to be a common theme in my reality right now, that parents and their children often go this way, or is that, and the parent takes on blame or rejection at a certain stage. And many of us who have done any sort of therapy find that we have blamed our parents for, or with good reason, and oftentimes for things that we are struggling with in our adult life. Is that just the human experience? Are we asked to just accept that? Or is there something that we are missing as both a daughter, a son, and a mother or a father?
Remember when we talked about journey and that you've signed up for your experiences? This is included. You choose your geography, your race, your physical body, your parents, the family unit that you will be born into. The reason for that is that this group of people best serves the purpose of what you have signed up for with lessons or characteristics that you wish to explore, whether it is to embrace what you experienced as a child or reject it. It's just an experience, and the unit that you were brought into does not mean that you have to stay with them for the rest of your life. They may have just been that foundation unit, like your first grade teacher and the people who were in your first grade class. It's not a life sentence. They may just be there to serve a particular purpose, to provide a particular example that you can choose to embrace or reject. Either way, there are lessons to be learned in it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So blame, guilt, shame, anger, these are all emotions related to judgment and a negative judgment. They did something wrong, but did they? Consider what you got out of perhaps what you consider at this time a negative experience. For instance, when Lauren was hit by a car, if you look at the snapshot of that moment, it seemed like a really bad experience. However, in the bigger picture, it was the best thing that could have ever happened to her because it changed her life. Consider your parents. They have two directions to go with. They were children themselves, and they are parents. In the middle, they are human beings with their own set of examples and lessons and experiences to contend with. Rather than consider them at fault, consider what you have gotten out of it. Did you pass the class? Did you get everything out of the class that you on your journey needed to get? Because that's why you signed up to be with them. There's a much larger picture there and larger patterns to be considered. And there are people who can help you with that. But first and foremost, we ask you as adults to consider your parents not so much as your parent, but as another flawed human being dealing with things that you may not have any idea about. And as humanity evolves, there's a tendency to look at the past with today's mores, if you will. What was common behavior 10 years ago is not common behavior or even acceptable behavior now. And the further you go back, you'll find more and more behaviors, thoughts, conventions to be angry about. Let that go. Consider instead what you can do to put your energy into creating a reality you prefer or parenting you prefer. Relationships you prefer. Begin with yourself and your own thoughts, attitudes, and perceptions. Lead first with compassion. So if you have a reaction, ask, but is it compassionate? And if it's not, slow down and think about it and see if there's a different angle to come at it. There are many angles to every situation. Yours, particularly as a child, is just one. Does that answer your question?
Yes. And on behalf of parents who are struggling with children who are not communicating or there's strife, how would you respond to the parent that is eager to repair that relationship, but is burdened with the shame and guilt that is being projected on them from that child?
So someone else's opinion, attitude, perception is not yours. You do not need to take it on. Consider your own review of the situation and see if there's something that, in hindsight, you might have done differently, with the understanding that at the time, everyone does the best that they can every day, including today. Consider also that everyone has to work through their wounds in their own way, in their own time. Consider if there's an element of control. And very often with families, if there is time and space between, when you reconvene, there's a tendency for everyone to fall into the same slot that they were at the time when they were all together. And these slots may not fit anymore. The child may have grown up to be a different person than they were when they were 12. And the parents may have grown up as well. And there isn't always an allowing of that evolution to happen within the family members. So there are lots of reasons for there to be friction. And it takes two people with compassion to repair a relationship, but also understand that they may not be necessary, that the time that you spent together is the time that you spent together for the purpose that you were there. And that purpose has run its course, and that's okay too. You all come into this life set to play particular roles with each other. And those roles do not always last the entire lifetime. And that's okay. Allow that to be okay.
So it's not the parent's responsibility to continue to work to repair a relationship. It's the parent's responsibility to allow it to be repaired. Am I hearing you correctly?
Correct. And repair, if you want to look at it that way, repair yourself. Repair what caused you to behave in a way that may have alienated the child, or if you were the child that alienated you. Focus not on the dysfunction, but on gratitude. If there is something you can be grateful for, focus on that and put less emphasis on the things that didn't work or don't work. Energy also works here too. If you are able to allow forgiveness and a release of the energy of what didn't work, you may find that there is room to come together. But if there is focus on what didn't work, even if it is meant to apologize for it, you're still putting energy into the dysfunction, that tug of war. So we would encourage you to let all of that energy go. There are a number of energy methods that are available to you to just release all of that. And once that is released, there may be room for reconciliation. Does this make sense?
Yes. Would you include a few energy recommendations?
Certainly. EFT tapping is a great way to release things that you know about. And once you can release the energy that is stored in your body, the energy of grief or anger or guilt or shame, frustration, disappointment, hurt, once you can release those emotions, you can very often have a different perception of the same experience. You may realize that while you were blaming someone for acting the way they did, you may realize once you've let go of your own hurt that there was nothing else that could have been done. And that leaves room for forgiveness and reconciliation. Also, the rite of reconciliation and forgiveness, known as Ho'oponopono, is a great one for clearing energy that is perhaps less specific or less identified. And that allows for people to not feel, say, your resentment towards them for behavior that they could not have controlled at the time. So once that is moved out of the way, then there is energy for this compassion and forgiveness and love and peace. And the love and the peace and the compassion starts with you, whether the other person responds or not. It is for you to feel peace about anything that feels unresolved at this time. That is most important.
Do you have any final remarks for us as we launch into the weekend?
So we have brought up many things, many of them focusing on how you think and you feel. We've asked you repeatedly today to pause, to reflect, to allow, and to lead with compassion. So we would ask you to use that as sort of a litmus test. If you feel like you're being triggered by something, whether it's a thought or something that you consume, something that you read, something that you see, ask yourself, what is the most compassionate response I could have to this situation? What love, what peace can I share? Even if it's in your own mind, sending compassionate thoughts. Everyone is on their journey, and everyone has to figure it out as they go. Allow everyone to do that. Set your own journey, use your own imagination, your own inspiration, your own curiosity, and emphasize and explore your gifts. Help, heal, grow, and above all, enjoy. The energy of happiness and joy is much greater and much stronger than any of those other emotions. Share that. Share a laugh. Share a hug. Share a smile. Share a compliment. All of you will be better for it. And we thank you for this time, for your attention, and for this opportunity to speak with you. We look forward to the next time.
Thank you. Thank you.